Kelly Siegel, hello. So
Sandee,
great to see you.
Sandee, I'm so excited. There's, I'm on a lot of these, but I swear, your energy and your life existence is just so fabulous. I have, we talked for 10 seconds before. I told you I got a lot of questions. What I don't like about podcasts is that, to learn about the host, you got to bounce around. And when they're getting interviewed, I have so many questions. Your life is so intriguing and so amazing, and I'm excited, and thank you for having me. I'm humbled, and I love your story, and I'm sorry if I ask a bunch of questions, but I'm curious about you.
You can ask questions, but I'm going to be shooting them right back at you, okay?
I'm an open book, man.
So
Be careful what you ask, because I'm going to give you the honest truth.
So are you any relation to Craig? I know that sounds silly because it's a common last name, but it's just funny that Craig is my coach and my mentor, and I met you through his group.
Well, we actually are not, and the weird thing about it is the way Siegel is spelled. It's not normally with an Siegel. It's AL, and so it's not a common last name in that respect. And I was sitting working out in the morning at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm listening to a John Gordon podcast, and I see this Craig Siegel, and I look down, and it takes me like 25 minutes to realize this guy's name is the same as mine. I stop mid-podcast. I message him. About 20 minutes later, I get a message back that says, "Why is the universe telling me I need to talk to you?" And I'm like, "It's the same last name, dummy." And he starts laughing. He's like, "I love you already." So no, there's no relation, but I do tease him. I call him Small Siegel, and I'm Big Siegel. We have an instant connection. We're brothers from another mother. I love him dearly, and it's just a short time I know him. And the people that are in our group are amazing. Like, look at this. I mean, I get to talk to you, and your story about and I'm going to jump in and ask you questions about. Tell me, what did you win a gold medal in?
So in the skating world, yes, I'm a gold medalist in ice dancing.
Ice dancing.
And if you're not in the skating world, then people are like, "Oh, she's an Olympian." I'm like, "No, I'm not an Olympian." So you know how karate works or taekwondo, and you get different levels. So a gold medal in ice dancing is equivalent to like a black belt in karate.
Well, so congratulations. You know what? And again, I told you I did research. I listened to your podcast because I love the name. Happiness is beautiful. I learned that you ran a marathon, which
I did.
Wow. And then I also heard, and I'm really sorry to put you out there, that you were in the IT business, and that's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. I had an IT recruiting company that was doing gangbusters. I mean, we were so hugely successful. And then if you remember the .com, and I'm sorry, I'm getting my phone on silent because I've got a family chat that is just blowing up my phone right now. The .com burst in 2001, which you may not be old enough to remember that.
Old enough, okay.
Okay. But it was like, I'll never forget it because I'm a numbers person, especially when it comes to sales, and you have to keep track. And I knew that every 20 interviews we had, I would get one hire. It was consistent. I'd been tracking it for years. And in March of 2021, it stopped. And I think it took us 9 months to get 20 interviews. Like, that's how bad it was. And every IT recruiting firm went out of business. I was in the process of getting my GSA schedule because at the time, a women-owned business was very unusual. But all of a sudden, all these companies were women-owned, and like they were making their wives or their sisters and making it as a women-owned business. So I ended up holding on to it till about 2003 when my last contractor rolled off, and my son was 2.5 at the time, and I made the decision just to close up shop and stay home with my son, which I did for 10 years, and that's when I started life coaching because I have to work. Like
everything is cyclical. That's about what's going on right now. We are trying to hire. We're growing so fast at National Technology Management that we're trying to hire, and it's just, where are all the people? I don't know. I don't get it. but we will interview, and then sometimes we'll make an offer and I'll try, I'll close them, and then just, no, we're good. We'll offer them more money than anybody. And it's a great place. We run EOS at NTM. So it's a great place to work. You know exactly what you're accountable for. You know exactly how you can grow. We share the wealth. You only have to be in the office 6 days a week. We are the highest people in the industry. I pay 100% of the health insurance, really good health insurance. And we still can't get people. Still can't get people.
Where are you located?
Detroit, but we are a nationwide brand. We, the name National Technology Management. I saw years ago. I saw what was going to happen. That's happening now. I knew cybersecurity was going to be the forefront. I knew it wasn't going to be for the big companies. It was going to be for everybody. So we rebranded as a shield. We make cybersecurity a standard in our offering, and we make it simple and easy because most people don't know what's ransomware. What's this? Keep it simple, silly, and make it easy for people to do business with us. And we're blowing up. But with growth, you need people. So we are. If you look at my social media feed, I all about it. So I just went to the Arte Syndicate down in Nashville, and sitting behind me in first class was a couple in Michigan that owns an IT staffing firm. I'm like, it's a sign. When you're in this lifestyle, Sandee, everything happens for you, not to you. And
that's right.
Since I made my transformation, just everything aligns. If anything gets out of congruency, I just wait for it, sit back, and know that this is the universe correcting me somewhere. And
that's right.
It's going to work out.
Totally. Now, see, I'm in the DC metro area, and I don't know if this is having an impact nationwide, but Amazon has a headquarters here, and companies cannot compete, especially in the cybersecurity realm. Companies cannot compete with Amazon because they're handing out $50K bonuses that you don't even have to stay for 3 months to keep. They're like sign-on bonuses. It's crazy. But
we got Rivian, the electronic car maker here, doing that. We lost one employee to them. He was a level 1 guy, and they paid him like he was a level 3. And he walks in my office, and I take it under my wing. He walked in my office and he started crying. He's like, I got this job offer and I don't know what to do. And I was like, take it, bro. They doubled his salary. I'm like, take it. He's like, I thought you'd be mad. I'm like, heck no. You have the ability to better yourself. I want you to stay with me, but sometimes you're going to outgrow it. And last I heard, he's doing really well, but he needed more experience. But hey, that's the way. I just said everything happens for you. So IT is a very interesting business.
And you know what? As a leader, that is such a unique quality to have, where you're willing to, sacrifice a good employee for their betterment, for lack of a better word.
Even one better. Right? I hate to blow my own horn, man. I love this kid so much. I helped him buy his first house. That's what this is about, Sandee. This is giving back. We just heard this on Craig's latest thing. Happiness is the new rich, man. And happiness, taking a step back, is giving to others and loving yourself. So everybody wants to be happy. Well, what does happiness look like? Everybody thinks, well, I got a new car, I got a jet, I got this. No. Happiness is loving yourself. It's an inside job, inside out, and then people will come to you. And I tell you what, this guy buying his house, and I gave him the down payment on it and let him work. It was the best during the pandemic, by the way. So we grew while the pandemic was. Everybody else sat around and got drunk and sat and wondered when they were. I worked. We worked like crazy. I worked on my body. I worked on my mind. We worked on our company. Came out really, really, really strong in life. And now I'm here in the CLS experience with you on the Happiness Solved podcast, man. What could be better?
Thank you, Kelly. All right. So what is your story? Tell me the backstory for you and how you got to where you are today, and what has driven you into this personal development, because not everybody thinks that they need to improve, right? They just kind of go along in their life and they don't realize how important that inside job is.
Yeah. Awareness is the number one thing. If you go to the 12 steps of AA, the first one is just admitting powerless over alcohol. First thing about personal development is understanding that there's an issue and life can get better and that you probably are your own worst enemy. So my story, this is an interesting story because I just cut my number one episode for my podcast, Harder Than Life. And I started it with saying, thank you. Here's my backstory. And I said, I don't say this for anybody to feel sorry for me, and I will be completely vulnerable. It is hard for me to say what I'm going to say and people not be vulnerable and then me accept that's the one thing I can't. This happened for me. So, I had abusive mother and a stepfather. I mean, really abusive. Like, I was scared every moment of every day of my life until I moved out of their house at 16.
Oh my gosh.
It's really why I'm a big workout freak and why I'm muscular, because my stepfather was a big boy. He was 6'2", 260. And I worked out so I can kick his butt. And that's ultimately what got me thrown out of the house. Is I called him out and said, okay, you've made the man. Now you got to beat the man. And he said, get out of my house. And I said, gladly, thank you. So what drives me today? What drives me is literally that there was no food in our house. My parents were alcoholics. They were out drinking every day, all day. And when they came home, they would beat on me. So I got big and strong, so nobody could beat on me. And then I got a paper route when I was 12, and I got all kinds of jobs so I could get money to go eat. So to this day, what drives me is the desire to want to eat. And many times, when I start getting hungry, it will trigger me back into being that scared little boy with no food to eat. But that drives me, and I like to breathe through it. And I know, hey, it's your ego, it's that story it's that the voice in your head that's a liar that's meant to protect you. I work through all the personal development, but you could sit back and, well, why did my mother beat me? Why did my son? You know what? I'm tough, man. When the pandemic hit, I had 3 or 4 or 5 different things. We lost our biggest customer. My ex-wife and ex-girlfriend got together and decided to take my 13-year-old daughter away from me. And I just sat there as calm and as cool as the other side of the pillow and just said, oh boy, you just poked the bull. You just poked the bear. And I came and slowly but surely picked off one after one after one and beat everything and overcame the odds. And that's why I named everything Harder Than Life. I got a book coming out talking about it. And, it's what I have here, the consistency and discipline. It's amazing how I've been doing this for 25 years. So, oh, you're so lucky you own a business. You're right. 25 years of grinding. I now get to do what I want. I have freedom. And it took 22 of them or 21 of them for me to get my head out of my butt to quit the crutches of alcohol and drugs and start living my life. And holy cow, did it get better. It got so much better. It's not even funny. Now, it's not easy. I did everything just cold turkey. I was in Key West, Florida on New Year's going into 2019. I cheersed a person there, set my drink down, and haven't touched one since. Never been to AA, never been to anything. Never rehab, just said there's got to be a better life. And here I am coming up on 4 years later, loving my life, loving every minute of it. And I'm just going to spread the word as loud and as proud as I can. Exercise, no crutches, no cannabis, no nothing. And guess what? Life is pretty good.
That's amazing. What a great story. And thank you for sharing that. It's not easy to just walk away from some of our crutches, to use your word.
If it were easy, Sandee, everybody be doing it. And they call them 1%ers for a reason. Do I think I'm a 1%er? Probably not, but let's check back in a year and see where I'm at then.
I think you are at the 1% because that's really amazing. And it's not easy. I have my older brother, he was labeled chronically homeless and, just a big beer drinker. He would go on benders and drink for weeks on end, just nonstop around the clock, and he's finally has been sober And it was a tough road, and he's not homeless anymore. He's had a roof over his head for 5 years. So yeah, I mean, it's not easy.
Before you go to the next question, can I ask you a personal question? And
Please.
I heard you say something about you lost your brother 40 years ago. Was that
Yes.
linked to, and I'm very, very sorry. It never gets, my father passed away 25 years ago, and I think about him daily. So it never gets easier. I know that the anniversary just passed. I'm so sorry. Can you share with me? Because we've never really talked before. I'm curious.
Sure.
And if it's too painful, say no.
No,
but I'd like to know.
No, I can absolutely talk about it. Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a defining moment in my life because I had a very tumultuous childhood. From the time I was in the womb, my biological father was very, very abusive to my mom and my older siblings. And apparently, from what I understand, he never hit me, but he was, he would pull guns out, and it was just very, very tumultuous. He passed away when I was 18 months old. My mom remarried to my stepfather, who was extremely, extremely strict. And he crossed the line multiple times with physical abuse with me. So at the day that I found out my brother died was such a happy time in my life because we had just moved. I had girlfriends that I loved. I was competing, on the ice, and life was just so good. And I got home that day and learned that my brother had tragically died. He was serving in the U.S. Army. He was in Germany, and he fell out of a window, or he was pushed out of a window. We don't know. We'll never know because 40 years ago, the Army did not do a proper investigation like they would have today. So he was only 19 years old. It was 2 weeks before my 13th birthday, and my whole world came crumbling down. My mother went into a very deep depression. So I kind of lost her. My stepfather we never really had a close relationship until many years later, which was great because he did pass away in 2016, and we had such an amazing relationship, and I had forgiven him for everything that he had done, which was great for me. However, when something like that happens, you really need some sort of therapy. And back then, nobody did therapy. It was very much taboo. So I was just taught to smile and everything will be okay. And all that did was approximately 10, 12 years later, I ended up in outpatient rehab with a cocaine addiction. That was in 1990. And that was when I set onto my path. So it wasn't until then that I really started to pick up the life that crumbled around me 12 years earlier when I was 12 years old. And so it happened for me, not to me. And it was really hard to get that because when my son was born in the year 2000 and my mom walked into the room 10 minutes after my son was born, I kind of had just a little tiny inkling of what she must have went through when my brother died. Because when you're holding that baby, that infant, the amount of love is overwhelming. As you know, you're a father. As you know, there's nothing like it. And at the same time, the potential fear of loss is just as overwhelming. So that's kind of what put me on my path of where I am today. And I am a total self-help junkie. I've been on this path for 32 years. I am always learning and growing. I love interviewing people because I learn so much from my guests because we can never stop learning. I was on a call a couple of days ago and I was like, I keep wondering when I will arrive. When will I get there? And I'm like, you're never going to get there. It's a destination and it's a journey. Happiness is a journey. It's not a destination. And I always feel like, haven't I been through enough? And it's like, no, I haven't. That's part of life is to grow and to keep growing and growing and growing. And during that growth, you're going to be hit with all sorts of obstacles because it pushes you into an uncomfortable place. I was on a podcast and the podcast host, can you read it? Because it's backwards when I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
He quoted.
You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I say that every day.
Right? But isn't that cool? Like
Our normal is crisis mode from what we, that hold on. There's so many things, Sandy. First of all, I don't even understand how you can say you've been doing something for 32 years. You don't even look. You look beautiful. You're absolutely timeless age-wise. So first of all, you're beautiful. I love you. Thank you. And that was very. There's so many good things. Your brother and hero died a hero. Thank you so much for that story. I'm interested to see, and it's part of your therapy. Did you go to that person, that 12, almost 13-year-old girl, and hug and kiss and love her as this big badass that you are now today, and give her what she needed then? Is that part of your process?
Yes. And I have done that. As a matter of fact, when I was in the outpatient program, the therapist did an exercise. And in my very first book, which is a novel, it's kind of the premise of the story. And it's going to be republished and finished because it was an incomplete story. And that's another project that I'm working on. What he did was he went back to your younger self as like a 5 or 6 year old. And it was like this guided meditation. And you you see yourself as a 5, 6 year old child. And that little child looks up at you and says, how did we get this way?
Oh, that's fire. I did the same thing during the pandemic. I did hypnotherapy because I was in a therapist for years, and he would just say, we've hit an impasse. There's nothing we can do. You just need to quit drinking. I'm like, I don't get it. It's not in the way. I was successful financially, and he just quit drinking. And I didn't know what he meant. But what this hypnotherapist did was have me in a room over Zoom, by the way, because it was right when the pandemic happened, and had me in a room, big Kelly with little traumatized Kelly at my 5-year-old age when I had my major trauma, and my mother and my stepfather all sitting at a table, and said, what does big Kelly want to say to little Kelly, excuse me, and what does he want to say to your parents? And I burst out in tears. And I've never said this out loud to anybody. I burst out into tears over Zoom and MF'd my stepfather and just stood up and wanted to punch him right in the face. And at that very moment, I became healed. And it like the weight of 43 years. And I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't have a chip on my shoulder. And it just released. And you see me exhale right there. It is so good. So I tell people, keep grinding and keep trying, because where your breakthrough is, it just so happens yours and mine are very a lot alike. Other people's are going to be different, but it's out there, and you don't have to live life the way that you are with crutches, with booze and alcohol or Cheetos or whatever you're using as a crutch. But I'm interested to wonder, how did you end up on cocaine? And I only ask, I will tell you, I used cocaine. It was such a good, I tell people, I wish I picked the wrong time to quit. I drink caffeine because I start at 4:30 in the morning and I go till 8, 9 at night. I used to do little baby bumps at about 10 to 12 at night while I was drinking, so I could continue drinking. And every time I did it, I'd say, this is when I should be stopping drinking. But no, not Siegel. I had to push through it. And it was nothing more than just a little oomph to keep going through the night. How did you get it being, your story doesn't align with cocaine?
No, it's very unusual. So my older brother had a lot of pills in his system. And so I was of this mindset that I was never going to do drugs ever. I had only tried marijuana, didn't like it, tried it again a few years ago, still don't like it. It's not my thing. And I was just out with colleagues after work, and there was this colleague of mine who was 11 years older than me, who I kind of had a crush on, and he pulled it out. And at first I was like, no, because it had been introduced to me multiple times. And it was like 3 of us, and the 2 of them were using it. And I was like, all right, I'll try it. So we ended up dating for about a year. And it was just a daily occurrence. And if you try it once, it's one thing. If you keep doing it, you're going to be hooked. And yeah. And it was,
man. It's like, I get tomorrow's energy today. Yes.
Right.
And I
mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I didn't tell you the backstory. So I continue to make stupid errors my entire life until I quit drinking. And it was always around drinking. So I used to sell cocaine in mass quantities when I went to college. That's how I put myself through college. So
oh my gosh,
I never did it I was in no to drugs. All my friends did it. Everybody did it. It wasn't until I got arrested for selling it that I finally said, what is with this drug? And I tried it and I'm like, yeah, I never was at a point where I was addicted. It was just a means to get me to drink more. I loved alcohol. I still love the taste of alcohol. I drink non-alcoholic, that whiskey. I love the taste of it. That was my problem. Now, when I gave it up, I realized, holy smokes, I was using it to mask emotions, mask that fear, really. Everybody loved Drunk Kelly, and Drunk Kelly wasn't afraid of anything. I didn't deal with that childhood trauma of being afraid every day. Are my parents going to come home and beat me? Are they? And I'm talking violent. I mean, I talk about it in my book, where my stepfather damn near killed me, drowning me in a bathtub of water that my drunk mother had left. How am I supposed to know it's there? So, it's just that I could go on for stories and stories. And the only reason why I tell people is not to feel sorry. It's to understand the level of harder than life that I've overcome to be here.
That's right.
To be able to share. And I've only, to steal from Craig, I've only just begun. The website isn't even up for our personal development. I am an IT guy at heart. I'm a businessman at heart. It just, I decided during the pandemic to write a book. When I wrote the book, the publisher goes, this is too good. You can't stop here. You got to continue. And just here I am. And next thing you know, I'm going to be on stage with probably Craig and whoever the heck else wants an amazing story and someone who's passionate and wants to give back. At the end of the day, NTM provides a very comfortable living for me and my family. I am doing this, and every portion of every dollar I make off of it, I'm going to give back to a charity. We do a lot of donations at NTM. I like to provide IT for nonprofit organizations that can't afford it. They can't afford it. And as you know, being in IT business,
That's awesome.
Cyber security is a big issue, and I don't want any nonprofit organization to stop working because they can't afford IT gear. So we do a lot of sport. I got a couple of children's charities that I'm just near and dear to. At the end of every year, I'm going to see what we brought in from the Harder Than Life proceeds. We're going to write a nice big check back to these children's charities. And, that's what it's all about. That's loving yourself and giving back, service to others. Self-care is not selfish. And you got to freaking take care of yourself. I tell my daughters, 13, I said, listen, the most important thing is my mental health and my physical health, because if I'm not here, nothing happens. I have 20 people that depend on me and their families at NTM. I have my daughter. I have soon to be a community of people. We're coming to tear a little bit out of make a little dent in this personal development space, because you'll never find an incongruency in my life. There isn't. I live daily, consistent, harder than life habits. I do the grind every single day. There's not a point where you're going to find me sneaking a drink. There's no skeletons. I'm as genuine as authentic. And I hate saying that because I always use this thing, big hat, no cattle. You don't have to tell people that you're trustworthy. It just comes across. But I'm new to the scene. I'm new to you. And please, I know that we got a little time yet, but I want you to be a guest on mine, and I want to hear more. We're going to probe more into this story because you're fascinating.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for sharing your story. And the reason that's so important, and that is the whole purpose of my podcast, is I want people to understand that while somebody who's listening to this may not have experienced that, but they've gone through something hard, and pain is pain. Doesn't matter what the circumstances or the details are. It's still pain. And pain comes in all shapes and sizes, and it's different for every person. But for each individual that is experiencing pain, it's real for them. If you've never experienced that pain before, if it's the first time, it's bigger than life. And people like you and myself are here to say, you can overcome this. And you will get to the point where you can say, this happened for me and not to me.
And
well, that's why it's so important.
Sorry to interrupt, but you'll hear me say this a million times. Okay. Tough times never last. Tough people do. I wish I could sit here and tell you that it was simple and easy, but the whole not drinking thing, man, I was curled up in frickin' ball, crying my eyes out, experiencing emotions that I had spent 40 years or 30 years masking. They were just coming at me every which way from Sunday. And, I was in a toxic relationship with someone I thought I loved. I thought that's what I deserved. And, the funniest thing about it is that's the reason why she was the original inspiration and motivation for me to quit drinking, and ended up turning me into this, as Craig would say, juggernaut monster that just loves life. She decided to not stop drinking. I quit, and the rest is history. And I look back thinking, hey, alcohol was always present. Maybe I'm the issue here. Turns out I wasn't. It's another story. And I'm very grateful. I say it in my gratitude every morning. I thank her. I know she'll probably listen, and I'm not trying to rub it in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everything happens for me. Had I not been with her, I would have still been drinking. I still would not have addressed my issues. I would not be living the best life. And there's another thing. My birthday's coming up in a couple of weeks. I just was thinking about it. This has been the best year of my life, by far. NTM has grown. My relationship with my daughter is amazing. There's not a negative thing in my life at all, and it's intentional. It's what you say no to. It's what you don't make space for, and life is what you made it. And I am looking next for 2023. It's going to be even better because I'm going to be able to, now I got the skills to give back and make a difference and make an impact on everybody. So the book will be out, Harder Than Life, come January. It'll be available everywhere books start. The Harder Than Life podcast is going to be hitting the Harder Than Life website. I'm going to get out and do some keynote speaking, inspirational speaking, and I'm coming on the scene like Craig, riding his little coattails. Maybe I'll get on his back because he's so small. I love him to death, and I just can't wait to get my arms around him and love on him. And I already told him too, and I'm going to put this out there. I want to officiate his wedding. I'm ordained, and I want to do it. And I think, how cool would that be? So
no kidding.
I just adore him, and his story is inspiring. And he's one of the true, authentic, genuine people. And I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful for you.
Well, so am I. I'm grateful for you. And you know what they say, if you want to be that person, surround yourself with people that you want to emulate. And he certainly is that for me as well. So.
Well, like attracts like. I hate to use all these damn cliches, but some of them are so
but it's true. It's really. Well, Kelly, this has been such an amazing conversation. I've kind of gone over time a little bit. That's totally okay. So everyone, check out Kelly's new book that's coming out in January, and check out his website, Harder Than Life, harderthanlife.com. By the time this goes up, hopefully it'll be up. So,
Sandee, I will. I'm going to be reaching out to you to get you on my podcast. I really appreciate this. This is good. We've got much more to talk about. I adore you.
Yes, we do. All right, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.